I turned 100 people into millionaires through our stock in the past 6 months.
Justin, welcome to Attractive Mindset. What makes your company stand out the most that you get to ring that bell?
That type of business commands the highest market cap multiples in the publicly traded world. We are in the top 5 of overbought stocks in the world.
What makes you a master at sales?
It's frequency and authenticity. If I could just be myself and authentically connect with someone, that's what people buy first. Like if you have to close at the end, you probably missed something in your presentation.
How do you orchestrate a result like 20 million in 11 months?
I just need to plug in with people that are excellent at everything else, and then we can go a whole lot further faster together.
Hey guys, we realize a lot of you are coming to the page and enjoying the content, but we see a lot of you still aren't subscribed. And so if you could click that subscribe button, it'll help our channel grow and give you more episodes with a lot of amazing individuals. Welcome back to another episode of Attractive Mindset. And listen, today's guest, Justin, is a superstar. Came all the way to us from the West Coast. But listen, I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit more about himself. Justin, welcome to Attractive Mindset, man.
Man, it's great to be here. Sunny Florida.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of humidity. I'm not used to that, but we're having fun.
Oh, all good, all good. So for the people who don't know you, what kind of categories do you promote right now?
Man, it's interesting. So I'm in the hedge fund world. We've got private equity funds, real estate funds, and I'm also on the board of a publicly traded company. And it's a really exciting time. We're literally in the process of uplisting onto the New York Stock Exchange. So
wow,
we're probably a couple months away from ringing the bell, which, being on TV, on CNBC,
nice.
Ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange is a bucket list thing that you just never even really think could be a reality, and we're really
Absolutely.
close. Yeah.
No, that's fire. Okay, cool. So how we do the show is, this is the type of show where instead of mostly what you do now, we'll get into a little bit of that, but this is where we get to introduce people to who you are, because everybody can look at our social medias nowadays and they say things like, oh, you're lucky, you've made it, this and that, but they don't really know how we started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go way back to the beginning, and we literally just get, people a chance to understand who you are, and how you got to where you are today.
I love it.
And so where are you from originally?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Born and raised.
Yep. I was there my whole life till about 3 years ago.
Oh, so you just moved to Vegas.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the past 2 years.
Okay. And so in Washington, D.C., what was life like for you growing up?
I was born in D.C., but I grew up in Maryland, in a place called Clarksville. And good upbringing for the most part. Watching my dad as an entrepreneur was pretty crazy.
What did he do?
Oh, he started one of the biggest blind companies on the East Coast. It's called Next Day Blinds. But yeah, we lived several different lives. He made tons of money, lost it all. So I grew up in a mansion and also in an apartment. So
wow,
it's a blessing looking back on it, but when you're going through it as a kid, you just feel like your life was stolen from you.
Yeah, 100%. And your mom was an entrepreneur too?
No, well, I guess sort of. Yeah, she in the early days was helping my dad with the business, and then eventually when they split up, she went back to being a CPA. And so I was kind of like back and forth. They both got remarried and had great lives since then, so it all worked out.
Okay. And so going from, you said born in Maryland, and then you went over towards DC and everything. So going through school, what was that like for you, especially going through those ups and downs of sometimes I'm in a mansion, I'm in an apartment, like what's your friend group? What's going through your head as a child?
Yeah, I went to private school until I was probably, 11, 12 years old, when all that fell out. And then I was in public school. So yeah, I felt the same kind of thing, like I lost all my friends, had to make new friends, that kind of thing, which is normal, looking back on it, just felt differently. But school was really tough for me. I couldn't sit still. I had horrible grades. I barely graduated high school.
Wow.
Never graduated college.
Wow.
I'm a college dropout, and you just feel terrible, inadequate to society. And if I didn't find door-to-door sales, I probably would have felt worthless forever.
Do you feel like you got that kind of anxiety because you saw the life that your dad lived?
I don't think it was that necessarily. I think it was, the middle class mentality of like, you go to college, you do this, you do that. And the benchmark of success is literally if you can be successful at school.
Mm.
So when you're a kid and there's nothing else, I mean, I still think when you're 20 years old, you're still a kid, you know? I mean, just being like, I just don't know if I'm going to make it in life because you don't know there's alternative routes. I think it's more mainstream today to, you know, go into the trades or go be an entrepreneur, all these different things. But back then it was like, if you didn't get good grades, like your life was over. Hey, Justin Freistadt here with Pitch Equity Fund. We are a real estate private equity fund. We've got a whole suite of deals for accredited investors to check out. So if you are accredited or if you want to become accredited, happy to meet with you, explain how the space works and how you can have access to some of the greatest private deals that exist on the planet today.
What'd your parents say about you going into college initially?
I mean, they were like, you're going to go to college. It was like a non-negotiable kind of thing, you know?
Got it. What'd you go for?
Music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you play instruments?
Yeah. So guitar was my focus, but I went for audio engineering, but I can play drums, bass, piano, all that stuff. But
great.
Yeah, it was like I didn't really see a career path there. So I was kind of just wasting time in college. I was playing hockey. Without hockey, I would have never got into college. That's what got me in.
Oh, okay. So scholarship based.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you were good at it then.
Yeah, good enough to get into school.
Yeah. I mean, now that I think about it, you do seem like, you know, you would play hockey and you'd be good at it. Because hockey, you know, I was just watching probably my first hockey games ever with the Panthers versus
Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know the game, but I'm just watching the dynamic of it, and it definitely takes a certain type of personality. and I can sense that vibe from you. Like, you don't really take any shit.
Hey, I mean, hockey will do that. It's brutal out there. You know, kids are ruthless, the shit talking, all of that. I think a lot of that helped me, you know, toughen up for the real world.
Okay. And so now, you know, what made you fall in love with music? If your parents did entrepreneurial, more oriented stuff like anybody else in your family, like how'd you get into even going towards music?
Yeah, I think when you're a kid, you're just trying all kinds of things, right? Kind of like with the sports stuff. I mean, I played soccer, baseball, hockey, and then eventually it was like, okay, hockey's the one I want to go with. But I was always interested in music. I started with piano lessons, and then it was a guitar. And I'm kind of like really introverted. I spent a lot of time alone and really focused work. So when I was a kid, that was just obsession with guitar. So I'm the kind of person where I'm either going to be all in and be excellent at something. I'm not going to stop until I win, whatever that means, or I'm just not going to do it at all.
Fair enough. Okay. And so now you're transitioning out of college. How much time did you spend in college before you say, yeah, this is not for me, I'm out of here?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years, no degree. Yeah.
Wow. And so that's just repeating over and over and over again. But you said you got in there on a scholarship. And so did you lose the scholarship?
Almost every year because my grades were so bad. So I'd have to go take summer classes and winter classes.
Wow.
And I would take stuff like volleyball because I knew I could get an A in it, and then I'd be eligible to play again.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, total misfit.
And then after you leave college now, how old were you when you were like, I'm out of here?
It's probably 23, I think, when I finally gave up. I came back for one last season when I had already started in door-to-door sales. And I just wanted to play out my eligibility. And I got hit from behind the first game of the season, broke my ankle in like 3 places.
Wow.
It was nasty. And that was it. And I was like, all right, well, if I can't play hockey, I'm just got to find a different game to go pro in. And that was business.
And so what made that specific route out of all the business ways you can go, I'm going to do door-to-door sales?
I mean, it was from a place of ignorance and lack of access, or I could say that was the access. I was packing orders in a warehouse for $7 an hour and driving trucks doing deliveries, and I was watching the sales guys at the company, and I knew how much money they made, and it was just mind-blowing to me. I mean, this was in, I don't know, 2010, 2011 time frame, so making $100,000 is probably like making 300 now.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are making 150,000, and I was like, I got to figure out how they do that. So I just got tunnel visioned into it and just got started, and because it was the only path that I saw, you know.
Got it. So, you know, and that's such a specific route of sales, because it's almost like network marketing to me. Like, nobody ever really wants to deal with network marketing, but the foundation of what network marketing and door-to-door sales teaches you as an entrepreneur, I honestly recommend it for anybody, because you have to do certain things. So walk us through the day in the life of you becoming a door-to-door salesman.
Brutal. That's what it is. That's why you're right. Everyone should do it, because if you can survive that, you're going to build a thickness that will translate into anything you want to do in the business world. So yeah, it was brutal. I mean, I was driving probably 50,000 miles a year, going all up and down the mid-Atlantic, neighborhood to neighborhood. The first couple years was really tough, but it's like anything. If you just stick with it, you start to get referrals, and eventually all of my appointments were scheduled, so they know you're coming to the house, and their friend bought it or they were referred from family. So
it gets easier over time.
Yeah, it's like all things, right? If it's never going to be as hard as day one. So if you can survive day one, it's like, okay, on day two, it's never going to be as hard again as today. And if you just keep that mentality, eventually you're cruising. People just have a microwave mentality, and they just don't stay with anything long enough to get to that point.
Very true. Consistency is probably one of the biggest determination factors for business. I just shared a clip yesterday from the founder of Netflix, and he's like, man, at the same time I created Netflix, I had 7 other companies. And he's like, I didn't know. Back then, you couldn't tell me which one was going to be the one. He said, I was just consistent with how all of them were going. And some of them dissolved. Some of them, didn't work out. But I never stopped any of them. I just kept going. And Netflix is a champion.
Yeah, and that's a great mentality. I think the most successful people always say that kind of stuff because it's true. They were never targeting an outcome. They were just moving forward and living in the curiosity of figuring it out. And you're not putting expiration dates on your goals, timelines. Like, that's why I'm not a big fan of goal setting in general, actually, which is very counterintuitive to what most people will tell you. But I think you have to have dreams, but you have to stay in the process, or you're just chasing something and you miss the whole thing.
So, that makes me think, it makes me a little curious. How come you didn't join your dad's company?
So I did, actually. Next Day Blinds, he sold that when I was a kid, and then had a couple other businesses. But the organic food company we built together, we ended up selling that to a private equity firm in 2022. So we did that together for over a decade.
Wow.
Yep.
And what'd you have to do there?
So it was the same thing. It was a door-to-door sale.
Got it.
I started building my book of business and then eventually recruiting teams. And at the end of it, we had done 87 million in sales. And
wow.
We were in the food delivery space when COVID hit, and it was the greatest blessing ever. That taught me a lot too, just about how much there is a ton of luck in success. And of course you put yourself in the situation to get lucky. Yeah. But without a pandemic, our sales wouldn't have tripled. Wow. So it's not always your business acumen. It's the vehicle you're in. Can it even produce the results you want? If you're the greatest cell phone salesman of all time, you're probably not making that much money. So you really got to take a look at, okay, can this vehicle take me from A to B? And do I have the skill sets to move into a higher vehicle? Because the hardest thing to do is when you get great at something is saying, okay, I got to go back to zero in a new vehicle that can take me to the next level. That is a very tough thing to do mentally, because you feel like, okay, now I'm here, I made it and I'm cruising. But it's like, okay, well, that's your ceiling then.
Yeah. No, 100% I agree with that. And I feel like that brings a different definition to recession-proof business. If you really create a business where no matter what happens, even something like COVID, and you have something that people need, then it doesn't matter, because my business did extremely well somehow during COVID too, because people still wanted to capture moments. They weren't willing to give up birthdays. They weren't willing to give up, intimate moments, weddings, all of that kind of stuff. And they probably wanted it more because they were losing people. They wanted to have memories, and we were getting booked left and right as a production company and media. I'm like, no matter how much the time changes, people always want to document the process, the journey, the whatever X, Y, Z. But yeah, food, definitely. Somebody's got to eat.
Yeah.
Okay. And so after you do the original door salesman job, how long did you do that, and what made you stop?
So I never stopped. It was the same company.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I didn't put that together. But yeah, it was a startup when I started, and I was in the warehouse and then deliveries and then moved into the sales side of it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. And so now you mentioned in the beginning when you were introducing some of the categories that you've gotten into now, at what stage do you start to develop towards those?
It's very interesting because the entire time we're building that business, all I did was read finance books about investing, real estate. I was so curious about the way money moves and how does someone become a billionaire? Like these crazy things that just seem so outlandish and unattainable. That's really what I studied. So I feel like I was doing a door-to-door sales grind to build skills, grind out income. Never had a salary. It was 100% commission. But I knew there was something bigger and better for me eventually. And I knew I wanted it to be in that world. But I had all these limited mindsets about, well, I don't have a degree. I don't have an MBA from Harvard or Wharton or like one of these places. And I figured, well, and I didn't go intern at Goldman Sachs. And I'm like, that's how you get into the money world. That was my limited mindset. And it couldn't be further from the truth. So when we exited to private equity and I started hitting the road, going to masterminds and just high-end events, trying to find my next thing, what I realized was I met a $1 billion fund manager who didn't have a degree. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Turns out I can do this. So then I was just like, all right, I got to find the right partners. We got to find, the right access because we got no track record. We haven't done this. And we started out the gate. We built a $20 million hedge fund in 11 months.
11 months. Okay. So before we really dive into that, I want to know the history of that. So you go from a company that basically you got into right after college from start to finish, after reading all these books. How do you orchestrate a good structure to be able to set something up to be like, okay, this is who I need to add to my team. This is what my business needs. And you get a result like 20 million in 11 months.
Yeah. I mean, everything's a people game. You're one relationship away from anything you want in life. That was the biggest thing I learned by just being curious. And it's kind of forced innovation is my favorite way to talk about this. Without the pandemic, without the exit to private equity, I would still be in the food business, right? So it forced me to go figure it out, even though I was sitting there dreaming about being a hedge fund manager for a decade.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an element to learn there about you being the reason, proactive innovation instead of forced innovation. So I had to go figure it out. It was kind of like an identity panic when we sold the business because it happened out of nowhere. It wasn't the plan. And next thing you know, I'm thinking I'm going to do a health coaching business because that's the same arena. I'm putting money up to speak on stages and sell health products. And I'm trying to figure out this new business. And that's when I met my partners that we started the fund together.
Wow.
So it was right place, right time, right people, just because I was out there seeking for answers.
And so, walk us through what even a meeting like that looks like to where you're like, okay, we have like-minded kind of things, who gets what role and how do you officially just say, this is what we need to start?
Yeah, this is really important to know your identity, stay in your lane. So for me, I'm very clear on what my skill sets are and what my skill sets aren't, what I like to do and what I don't like to do. So I'm the type of person where I'm never going to do anything on my own. I'm going to want partners in everything. So I can put people that are way better at something in a seat that I don't even want to be in, right? So I want nothing to do with operations. I don't want to do accounting. I don't want to do admin, any of the stuff that a business needs, legal, So I always need to find for a business a good ops person, a good CEO type that's going to do, if it's investments, we're talking the underwriting, the deal structure. I'm on the revenue side of things. I'm looking to where can I attach myself? My skill set is sales and marketing, networking, bringing revenue to the deal. So I just need to plug in with people that are excellent at everything else. And then we can go a whole lot further faster together. I think the best example of this is if I wanted to start a company and go public on the New York Stock Exchange, I would have no idea how to do that. It would probably take me 20, 30 years, but I just partnered with someone who's done it several times. They plugged me in on January 1st, and here we are in June, and we're probably going to do it before the end of the year.
Wow. That was one of those, you look into the camera moments and you're like, bam, because I feel like these, a lot of people overlook these things, especially when it comes to having a team. And so you said your specialty is sales. I feel like being an entrepreneur in 2025, we often blend or assume as to what sales really means. And so when you say sales, like what makes you a master at sales? Like what are some of your strategy routes? Like what do you actually do to say, hey, I'm good on this category, but you're also making results at a high level?
Yeah, people really overthink this. It's frequency and authenticity, right? I'm going to show up more than everybody else. It's just inputs, right? Can't control who buys, but I can control how many people I talk to, right? People that have sales ego like drive me nuts. Like, you're not that great, right? Like I've never been the best closer. I'll just show up more than you and I'll get more sales and I'll have a lower closing percentage and I won't care. So like that's what it is. But I mean, you read all these sales books and word tracks and tactics. Like, I got rid of all of that because what I realized was if I could just be myself and authentically connect with someone, that's what people buy first. If you can't make that happen, then none of the rest of the transaction is going to happen. And then you just look at, okay, what are all the things that this person is going to be concerned with? After you've been doing any sale for a while, you're going to figure out what those, people call them objections, but I don't really see it that way. It's just what people are concerned with.
Yeah.
So I need to know how to bring it up on my own terms ahead of time before they even feel it. Most salespeople are going to run from it and hope it doesn't happen. I'm getting ahead of it, right? So when I get to the end, I shouldn't have to close. Like, if you have to close at the end, you probably missed something in your presentation. So never been a closer. I mean, short of just asking for the sale, that's really all you should have to do at the end if you've done everything correctly in the process.
That makes me curious to ask, as a salesperson that does this, how often do you use ChatGPT?
I use it every day.
And in what capacity do you use it for?
So I mean, I won't use Google at all anymore. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. I use it for in different businesses because now I'm in a bunch of different businesses. But depending on what my role is, it might be looking up statistics to put into our newsletter, fact checking things for our investor letters that we send out, and taking a framework that I write and then just even putting it in there and say, hey, ChatGPT, make this sound more professional, like a lawyer wrote it, or like like an accountant wrote it. It just depends what the purpose is, but it'll just enhance everything that you do.
So you use it more so to consolidate time.
Absolutely.
But you don't necessarily use it to help you make the sale.
No, definitely not.
And that's my problem personally with ChatGPT nowadays, is because I feel like the level of creativity has decreased since the reliance of AI in general. And, even a in-person, person-to-person conversation, like, that art is almost dead. People don't talk to each other anymore. Yep. They don't really, a lot of people are shy. A lot of people don't know how to manage conversations, manage emotions, and a lot of it comes from just not being around other people. But, they still say things like AI is going to, take over the industries and take over the world. And I do believe that for certain industries, but, I'm running into a lot of people that where I'll say something and I'm their friend and I actually cursed them out for this. Brendan is one of them. Brendan Boyd. Yeah, you know exactly who I'm talking. Brendan Boyd.
Yeah.
Every time I write a message to him, his stupid many chat thing pops up. I'm like, bro.
Yep.
I'm your friend. Like, I don't want to see that. Like,
that's why I don't use them. I don't use any AI integrations at all.
Really? So
zero on
every
social
message
media
that you have with everybody is just you.
It's me or managers, like real human beings that know what they're doing in the back of the Instagram. And we do the same thing for all of our clients too at the marketing business. Authenticity is everything on social media. Yeah, it drives me nuts. And it's the same thing. Like, if I get an auto response, you know it's an auto response. There's nothing authentic about it. But people, they're trying to be more efficient, which I can respect. But if you're losing the human connection, I think you miss the entire purpose of being on social media, which is to be social with other people.
No, 100%. Okay. And so now I want to shift focus a little bit to what you were explaining about, the whole stock market thing. Like January to June, you know, at the position that you're in right now, how do you set a company up to get into that position outside of just the teamwork? Like, there's other foundations that come into play, obviously, but what makes your company stand out the most that you get to ring that bell?
It's definitely team, especially in the beginning when you're, let's say, a pre-revenue company that's developing a technology product, that's what Safe Space is.
Mm-hmm.
It's an AI SaaS vertical, which, you know, if you start with the end in mind, that type of business commands the highest market cap multiples in the publicly traded world. So it's the best space to be in right now. But our CEO, Scott Boroff, I mean, he's done this several times. I mean, he did $1 billion on Wall Street as an investment banker before even going into being in the founder world. He's got over 20 exits. It's insane. So for him, it's just, he's got a blueprint. He knows exactly how to do it. We got to check this box, check that box. We got to have a certain amount of burn rate on the balance sheet. That's what I was brought in to do, was to do a funding round. The company has no debt. We don't have to raise any money.
Wow.
But we do have to raise money just to put the cash on the balance sheet to check one of the boxes to uplist onto the New York Stock Exchange. So it's doing that. It's being fully audited and reporting up to standards as if you were on the New York already, which we are. It's a certain amount of shareholder equity. You got to have a certain amount of public shareholders. So you're just putting this whole thing together, and now we've checked every single box except the last requirement is a $2 stock price. So everything we're doing right now is product development, because obviously we have to fulfill and sell, and just spreading awareness around the stock so people can, you know, learn about the company. And then you know, when you're on the over-the-counter pink sheet market, institutions can't buy it. So it's literally just a word-of-mouth game of, you know, getting retail shareholders to buy into the story. And that's what we've been doing for the past month. And the media tour has been incredible. We were $100 million market cap about 2 weeks ago, and we're over 200 14 days later. Had a crazy stat today. When you know, traders look at RSI, all these technical analysis things. We, on the 14-day RSI, we are in the top 5 in the last 2 weeks of overbought stocks in the world.
Wow.
So that's a lot of momentum flooding into the story and everybody getting in on the stock. So it's really exciting, but we've got a little bit further to go. I don't know where we are right now, but a couple hours ago we were trading around $1.30.
Wow. And so when you hit that $2 mark exactly, you know, and you get to this level of threshold, how does the game change from how you're doing it now to actually being amongst other monsters, basically?
Yeah. So once we uplist, that's another thing our CEO's got crazy experience with, is the institutional side of this once you get onto Wall Street. So, you know, the analysts come in, big investment banks come in, and that's when it gets really exciting in terms of, now the stock's going to be moving on fundamentals, and bigger players come in, and you know, who knows where it'll go, right? On uplist day, you do have something called a market maker that kind of is on the floor of the stock exchange, kind of monitoring the stock and controlling the swings. Just because you don't want it to go too crazy. You don't want to pop to like a $50 stock on day one. Even though that'd be great, it just wouldn't match the fundamentals of the business. Yeah. So it's a whole nother world, and this will be the first time for me entering onto the other side of uplisting. So
no, that's definitely dope. That's a feat that not many can say, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm a part of this. And you know, what kind of personal checklist does that check off for you? Like, you know, you said you're not really a goal-oriented person, but like having bucket list items, like if you're not really goal-oriented, like how do you navigate what's next for yourself?
So I think, to clarify that, in the beginning, until you build a serious muscle for success and discipline, you do need goals and targets, right, to keep you focused. And then eventually you're going to get to a place where you're going to do the work despite. You're going to operate no matter what, right? I don't need to put a goal on paper to get up and go for it every day. I'm going to max out my potential no matter what, every 24 hours.
Oh.
So that's all I focus on now is just my operational efficiency, my capacity to accelerate time and all that stuff. But to answer your first question, the biggest thing for me is that we raised the minimum investment was 100,000, and we did the friends and family round back in January at 10 cents a share. My biggest reward through this is that I turned 100 people into millionaires through our stock in the past 6 months. So when we crossed $1, all of those shareholders that got in at 10 cents, their 100 grand turned into $1 million.
Wow.
And that's a great feeling
this
to
is
have
all
that kind
friends
of
and family.
impact. All friends and family. Yeah.
Wow. That is, I'm smiling just thinking about it. Like I can only imagine them, you know, wow. Getting in at 10 cents and now they're millionaires. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's impact, right?
That's super impact.
Yeah. So that's insanely rewarding for me, having nothing to do with the money, doing it for other people, you know, having your investors win is an incredible feeling.
Wow. And so, you know, being able to be around this kind of capital, these kind of partners, this kind of team frame, you know, is there other companies that you want to create? Like, how do you facilitate the money that you make? Like, do you put it somewhere specific? Do you build new things, or do you want to create new things? Like, how do you navigate that world?
Yeah. So Scott Boroff and I and another partner, Coach Michael Burt, we started a private equity fund. It's called Pitch Equity. And so Scott's, you know, CEO of both of these companies. And so now we've got the public side covered, and now we've got the private side. And Scott's got incredible access to deals at banks, off-market deals. So we just finished an equity round on a $4.5 billion project in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Wow.
The CBRE appraisal came in at $131 million just for the land. And we bought it at a $26 million valuation. So all those investors, 1% of the project was $225,000. Their equity was worth $1.3 million on day one.
Wow.
So we're looking at, you know, deals that are just, you don't see deals like this very often. Scott's got access to that. And that's the beautiful thing about the partnership, right? That makes my job extremely easy to go out and raise capital when you have the best deals that are out there.
Yeah.
So whether it's the private or public side, again, it's all about your partners. And that's where Coach Michael Burt is so instrumental too, is he's speaking on stages every day. He's one of the best coaches in the world. So his lead generation engine for us to raise capital is a key component of making this all happen too.
Wow. And so what is like for now, you know, what is like a day-to-day for you in the life of Justin? Like, how many hours do you allocate towards each business, since you have several businesses? Like, what are your downtimes? Like, how do you manage time for yourself personally and business?
Yeah, I mean, calendar system's everything. Without my calendar, my life wouldn't operate, right? So I've got all the calendars from all the different businesses rolling up into one calendar, and it's all adjusting, so the slots are there. But yeah, there's no blank space on my calendar, right? So it could be capital raising calls, then it's a marketing call, then it's the executive meeting at Safe Space, and you know, when I'm on the West Coast, like that's a 9 a.m. Eastern meeting. So you know, I'm on Zoom by 6 a.m. most days, and I'll just, you know, rock work until around 11 a.m. is usually when I stop, and that's when I go to the gym, eat lunch. I like to break it up into 2 working sessions, so I block out that middle part of the day.
Got it.
And then you know, I don't ever stop, right? Whether it's answering the DMs before I'm going to bed or whatever, I'll work all the way up until around 9 o'clock at night, and then.
Do you have a partner or kids?
No kids, but yeah.
Okay. So do you want kids?
I don't know. You know, historically I always said no, I don't want kids. But I'm starting to feel like I'm going to be one of those guys that just does it later in life. Yeah. You know, once you've done all these other things, like what's left, you probably want to, you know, have a family. So yeah, I feel like I'll be the guy that does it, maybe like late 40s or something. I'm 38 now. I feel like no time soon.
Got it. Okay. You know, because I was going to say, like, you being, you know, as successful as you are right now, I can only imagine with the amount of time that you have to allocate toward these businesses professionally, like it's hard to navigate that realm of being with somebody else, let alone having kids.
Yeah, that's why it's so important who you choose to be with, right? It needs to be somebody that wants this life too, right? I mean, every single mentor of mine that's more successful than me in these worlds, Most of them lose their first marriage, almost all of them. And it's usually when you have a big financial reversal, you take your first big loss. It's for certain women, that's a deal breaker, right? Certain women are never going to downgrade their lifestyle, or, it's going to cause friction, and you have to be with somebody that is ride or die, right? Like when things get hard, they're there to support you. They're all in, right? It's kind of like Layla and Alex Hormozy.
Yep.
She'd rather live in a car with him than, leave him, right? So yeah, it's got to be somebody like that.
No, 100%. And you talking about these losses, even with the amount of success that you've had, in these past years, have you had to deal with any losses in these businesses?
Oh yeah. I'm coming out of the toughest period of my life, the last couple of years. That first hedge fund we built got wrapped up into a fraudulent situation. Someone stole $12 million from us, and so just like I just told the story of success with Safe Space and all these people becoming millionaires. Well, everyone that invested with me over there, took a major loss.
Wow.
And that was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. I had a huge part of my net worth in it, a bunch of friends and family in it. And it was the opposite of the Safe Space story. So we battled through it, lots of litigation. We won 6 for 6 on our lawsuits, and we're moving right now to collect on that judgment. And that is going to be the most incredible feeling, because I'm pretty positive we're going to be getting the capital back to all these people.
Yeah, no, that's what's going through your mind as far as like focus, because at the time you still have other business operating, but now you have this massive black hole that you have to deal with, that it's like you already don't have time on your schedule. Now you're forced to put time here. How does that affect your other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, that was the only business. I had just gotten out of the food business, and we started that hedge fund, crushed it for a year, and then boom, that blew up. So that was actually when we started the marketing business, because it was out of desperation, because we needed cash flow. Yeah. Right. All of our incomes went to zero. We lost a huge chunk of net worth. I have to get out of the house I'm in. We're selling cars. Like, it was a really brutal period of time. And at the same time, now you're signing up to essentially work for free for years to do what's right for these people, right? And yourself. Selfishly, I want my money back too. Yeah. We worked for free for the last 2 years, around the clock. Working to get this money back, working with governments, like working with multiple legal teams in different jurisdictions. It's been the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because you don't find out who you are until you go through something like that. When you're winning, you don't learn anything from winning. You learn everything from losing.
Wow. No, that's even how you first started with, we used to live in a mansion, and we used to live in an apartment, to you having to deal with your own version of this kind of situation. What'd your dad say about these kind of things?
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing for me, is all that reading, all that research that I did for the first 10 years of my career was to prepare myself for when I did have money, because I didn't want to go through what my parents went through. Hilarious, right? And then it happened anyways. And I just realized that, nobody gets to do anything large without experiencing hardship. It's just a rite of passage. It's going to happen. If you're playing high stakes and you're doing things that no one else is doing, sometimes, the risk is going to get you. And it's just part of the process. And then I realized, talking to, when I'm going through it and I'm talking to some of my mentors, like billionaires, people, it's like Bill Ackman lost $4 billion, right? And that's one of my favorite reels, when he talks about, you can't look up at the mountaintop that you used to be on. It just seems so far away. You just won't do anything. So you just got to make small incremental wins, progress every day. And that's what we did. I mean, I knew I was going to go through, the first 2 months were going to be brutal, because we had 60 investors. I had to call every single one of them, 30 minutes to an hour. So 60 times over and over. It took about 3 weeks to deliver the worst news ever. Right. So think about what type of person you become and the resilience you build going through that. The next time you got a prospect and like make cold calls or do these things that are hard for salespeople to do, it's like you're just forged into just a unbelievable human being that can handle anything.
Mm. And so, I feel like you would be good at answering this question. What's the difference to you between making money and creating money?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah. I think making money is a transactional thing, right? Like I go to an appointment, there's a transaction, I make money from that. Creating money is what we've done with the stock, right? I get shares awarded to me and they become what they become. Like that is money just created out, shareholder value out of a marketplace saying, okay, this company is valuable for X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it's just incredible to see, my like the money movement, right, of these shares that I have has moved more in a couple weeks than I've ever earned in a transactional money thing.
Wow.
Even in a year, like I made more in a week in my paper shares than I've ever earned in a year.
Wow. And hearing things like that is major, because when you look at certain statistics that are on like SBA.gov, the average American statistic is only making around $42,000 a year.
Right.
And so it makes you think on how can one category be so low, but the other categories be extremely high. It's almost like there's two different realms happening at the same time. Like we're in this reality and others are in this reality. And so, a lot of people that watch this podcast are struggling entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are looking to get into business. When it comes to creation, what would you say somebody should look for in creating a business?
I think getting into it, the worst, I don't know, it's tough. So doing what you're passionate about is usually a bad decision. Unless
the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, because what you'll do is you'll do what I did and you'll be like, oh, I'm really into health and wellness, organic food, blah, blah, blah. I never looked at the economics of the vehicle because I was emotionally involved in the passion of what I wanted to do, right? The most passionate, unfortunately, a lot of very passionate entrepreneurs are making no money.
Wow.
Right? They're not looking at the viability of the vehicle and then marrying a passion with that.
Wow.
Right? So it's like if I want to make $1 million a year, but I'm really passionate about picking up cigarette butts on the sidewalk, it's like, I don't know. Can you make any money doing that? You'll just go pick up cigarette butts for free for the rest of your life because you're so passionate about it. It's like, I don't think that's the formula. I think you find a vehicle, especially if you haven't created anything yet, like do something you hate that has a big reward. You don't need to like it. You just need to like the end result. And if it gets you the seed money to then go do something you're passionate about, now you don't need to make money anymore. That's the route.
I feel like this is going to be one of those clips where people argue that because they're going to be like, oh, well, if I do something that I hate, then I'm not really living life, but, for the people who've seen episodes way before, they understand my story. And I've been, at the bottom. I've been in an abandoned house, 2 years, like no hot water, no electricity, all of that stuff. But I'm at a way different phase of my life now where we have stuff on Forbes, Vibe magazine, Elements magazine, all that kind of stuff. And the distinction between the two is I would rather do something I hate first
There you go.
than go back to that, and it's hard to illustrate that kind of structure towards somebody that literally hasn't dealt with a big level of loss yet. And it sucks to say, but I wish that every business owner goes through a form of loss.
I feel the same way. Now, I used to look at it as, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, right? Now I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited for the person you're about to become.
100%. 100%. And I thought it was only me that felt that way, but it's like, it's a defining characteristic because one of two things is going to happen. You're going to pull through it or you're going to quit.
That's it.
And so, now do you read?
I do. Used to read a ton. Lately, I haven't been reading much.
What do you usually read now versus what you used to read a lot?
So it was personal development.
Mhm.
I've never really read for pleasure, even though it is pleasurable to me to read personal development. But this is an interesting take, right? I have two modes because, again, all in, all out. Am I seeking for information? Do I need new information? Then I'm going to be reading relentlessly, looking for answers, right? Because I'm seeking to get a result. But once I see the path, I don't read anything. I just go. Pig-headed discipline on execution. I don't need more information. This is a big problem in entrepreneurship. Everybody just wants to keep learning.
Yeah, they don't want to execute.
What I realize is, yes, there's a time and place for reading books and all this stuff, but you will learn way more by executing and failing and then just going. It was kind of like, I read real estate books for 10 years before taking action, and then I learned more in that first year of doing it than the 10 years of books.
No, 100%. You know, my girl, she's going to watch this episode when it comes out. And, you know, we had a heart-to-heart the other day because she's not an entrepreneur. Right. You know, she's a singer. And she's like, you know, I'm telling her different routes to take for the business. And she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, do something. I said, just do anything. I said, even if you fail, it doesn't matter. I said, just do it. Because if you don't do it, you're just going to be in your head the entire time. There's 1,000 YouTube videos you can go watch. There's courses you could buy. There's things that you can show up to. You know, we have the money for it. But even when you get that, nothing goes better than execution. You have to actually do what you learn, or it doesn't mean anything. You learned all that for what? You know, and people love using the term knowledge is power, but I don't like that term because it's not as complete, because knowledge isn't power until it's applied. Yep. Like it doesn't just, you know, I know a lot of smart people that are broke.
Knowledge is potential power.
100%. I know a lot of people that know a lot of things. They've read all the books in the world. They've graduated with XYZ, and you know, they don't have any money.
Nothing drives me more nuts than some of my friends who send me reels all day about, you know, entrepreneurship, motivation, how to set up a YouTube faceless channel, like all these ways to make money, ATMs. It's like endless stream of content. And I don't even look at it because I'm too busy executing all day. It's like, when are you going to do something?
And so now, you know, I'm glad that you brought that up. Even in that kind of position, you know, where you're doing things at the level that you're doing, do your friends interact with you differently? Do they come to you with pitches? Do they come to you with, hey, man, Justin, I got this idea. Like, I want to execute. How does that work?
Yeah, constantly. I mean, some do, some don't, you know. It's just I've learned to stay directly in my lane. I don't get shiny object syndrome, and I say no to literally everything. So, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think everybody wants to partner with you when you have the resources. But I already got my thing. I don't need a distraction, you know.
Now, on the psychological level of that, do you find that some of these people resent you for that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And, you know, those people got to go. But normally what happens, and that's the beautiful thing about building a personal brand, if you're unfiltered and unapologetic about who you are, when you first start doing it, there's going to be a bunch of noise and, you know, a bunch of hate. But then all those people are going to unfollow you. They're going to leave your life. And then you're going to build a really solid tribe of people who have the same mindsets that, you know, complement what you're doing. So now, I mean, there's really no negative noise anymore, just because I just drowned them all out and just pounded them with the same message until they unfollowed me or just got out of my life. It's great.
Okay. And so some of these other companies that you mentioned now, you know, what are those again?
So Kern's Marketing, that's our social media marketing business. We specialize in Instagram growth, engagement, and monetization. We also build agencies, CRMs, you know, websites, landing pages, all that stuff. And then we've got 2 funds there, same partners. So Cody Kern, Sergio Triconis, they're down here in South Florida.
I actually know who Cody Kern is.
Yeah, so Cody's my partner in both those businesses. And yeah, we got a private equity fund that does late stage. So we raise capital for companies like big ones like SpaceX and Flexport.
Got it.
So we have private equity positions in that fund. And then we had the first trading fund. And what else am I doing? Then we got Pitch Equity. That's with Scott Boroff. That's the private equity real estate fund. And then Safe Space Global. That's the public company.
Wow. And so with you creating all of these companies, you know, do you ever go into these with an exit strategy in mind?
Yeah. So for the public company, I mean, that direction comes from, it's like I'm never the number one guy. This is my favorite thing about my success, because I looked at things objectively instead of, instead of looking through the way I want it to be, right? I have zero ego. I don't care if my name's on the door, any of that stuff. 3 out of 4 millionaires work for somebody else. So it's a losing proposition to be the guy anyways, right? So, that long-term direction is going to come from the founder, the CEO, which would either be Cody Kearns or Scott Boroff. And then my job is just to drive the revenue behind the brands, right? So I get to focus on, just what I'm great at, and it's beautiful. Like, I don't have to stress out about
no extra stress. Wow.
Right. And I think that's an important thing, right? It's like 1 + 1 should equal 3. Like, if you have the right partners, I think you're way better off having partners, and leveraging, brains and skill sets and figuring out how these seats roll together. I think a lot of people shy away from partnerships just because they've had a bad experience, and you're just not good at picking the right partners.
You said 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
Right. So 1 + 1 would equal 2, unless we make each other so much better that the compounded result turns into something bigger. It's just like, the law of compounding with investing.
Yeah.
It's no different with building a business and building the team and the leverage that comes from having, multiple brains in the right seats.
It's almost like a penny doubled over 30 days.
There you go.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
No, I like that. 1 + 1 should equal 3, Sims. Okay. And so, with you having this level of not only success, but actual passion for it, because it seems like you really like what you do, how do you stop? Do you want to stop?
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would never stop. I think that's how you meet the devil, is blank space on the calendar. Especially if you're a driven person, it's like, I'm either doing something productive or destructive. That's just kind of
fair enough
how it rolls, right? So I gotta, like, if I'm not working, I gotta be working out, or maybe I'm in the sauna, or I'm in the cold plunge, I'm getting a massage, like something that's good for me. So I think over time, what I will do is pull back a little bit from. I'll never stop working, but there are things I want to do. I want to bring music back into my life, and do things that kind of feed the soul once I've, built the indestructible wealth that I'm just dead set on building.
How often do you vacation now?
I feel like my life's a vacation, man. Like, that's ever since I got out of the door-to-door sales life, and now my job is literally going city to city, doing media, talking to people, meeting with investors, going to dinners. Like, I feel like I'm making money just partying through life in a way.
So you don't have to go to Colombia or DR or anywhere like that?
No, I haven't been out of the country in a while. But it used to be like that, right? I hated my work, and we would go to Hawaii once a year, or we would go wherever. Now I don't need a vacation from my life. I literally feel like I'm living exactly what I want to do every day. It's so much fun. Like, look what we're doing right now. Right. And then I'm gonna go meet up with an investor in Miami, and we're gonna go to dinner, and maybe we'll do some business. So it's like, I love going out to dinner. So I basically found a way to make the things I love what I do for a living.
So now, on the psychology side of that, do you ever feel like your life gets a little monotonous?
Not at all. It's so exciting. Every day is different. Even on days that are a little mundane, where it's a bunch of Zoom meetings and stuff like that. Well, I did it at the Boca Beach Club today with the most ridiculous view, right? And I'm sitting there in Nashville 2 days ago on the 35th floor at our corporate apartment with the most beautiful view, ripping phone calls, calling investors, right? And I'm just sitting there saying, like, how did I end up here? This is incredible. I'm having so much fun working.
Wow. No, that's major. And you even saying you would never stop. Do you think that's necessary, a good thing or a bad thing? Because in the sense of, I feel like different forms of different things bring different people peace. But when you get to a certain age, it's just just like you said, I want to bring music back into my life. I want to do this and that. Like, as a human being, not only time, but capacity of just whatever we do, especially if you're a driven person. Because I'm kind of like you. The moment I touch something, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm either gonna go all in or I'm just say fuck it. I don't like it. I don't whatever, you know. But you bringing those elements back into your life, do you feel like it would affect the current life that you're living because you're allowing a different passion to take over?
Absolutely will. Yeah. There's a lot of clarity, and you cannot have it all at the same time. You just can't. It's a big fallacy. Like, people that want to have a business, they want to have hobbies, and they want to be social with friends, they want to have a family. There is only so much room for this stuff in anyone's life.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be excellent and, let's say, a top tier 1%er in anything, you're going to have to narrow it down of what you're willing to allow in. So yeah, no, if I'm going to let that back into my life, that would be a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. Business will suffer, but I will do that intentionally, because life is not all about business.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to look at it. I think if you want to do anything at an exceptionally high level, you have to look at it as seasons, and you got to be committed for a season. Most people think they deserve a vacation every weekend. I mean, think about how crazy that is. I don't work on Saturday and Sunday. Like, you really earned a vacation after 5 days of work?
Wow.
Oh man, that's an interesting perspective. I'm like, I'm gonna work for 5 years and then take a vacation that you never even be able to think about.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. I just look at things differently in terms of what real true stamina and commitment looks like, because that's what it takes to do anything that most people, can't do.
And so, with you saying that, how do you feel about like legacy? Are you facilitated by legacy? Because you said, you didn't think you would want kids, but if you do end up having kids, it'd be later in your life. Like, how do you feel? Because you're making all this money now, but it's for you. Like, do you want it to be generational? Do you want it to actually do something else?
I might feel differently after I have kids, but I have an interesting concept on this. I think legacy is ego. Like, to me, legacy is ego, right? To live beyond the grave is ego. To plan for things to happen when you're not here, I think, is very egotistical.
Fair.
It's like, once I'm gone, I'm gone. Like, I want to leave it all on the table. I don't want to die with $1 billion. Unless, legacy probably later in life would be more of like, how do I make a massive impact for good on the planet or something?
Got it.
Maybe I want to make $1 billion and put it in a trust that feeds kids.
So you're not going to have like a will saying, hey, this goes to this person and is allocated here or there, or?
No, I mean, well, maybe. I don't know. I haven't given it a lot of thought, and I don't have kids, but I mean, I would be very careful with that. I think it's one of the things my parents did really well, is they didn't give me anything, and when they could have, and I think enabling lifestyle, because a lot of parents, go, well, I didn't have anything growing up, I want to give my kids, things that I didn't have, which I think is, you should to a certain extent, but they have to work and earn and learn how to survive. I'm not saying don't take your kids to Disney World, but if they want their first car, like, they need to get a job and work for it.
I've never really thought of the dynamic trade of like most situations that people end up in are when their parents get older, they have to take care of them. But if your parents are already doing good, they can technically take care of themselves. So what is that kind of dynamic, going into where your parents are getting older now, but they don't necessarily need you to take care of them, whenever you do visits or whenever you see them? How does the conversation happen? Like, where do you guys connect on the most?
Yeah, I mean, both my parents are going to be just fine taking care of themselves, which is a blessing. But yeah, the conversations are really fulfilling. It's especially with my dad lately, he kind of makes some comments of like, now the students become the teacher, and he's learning from me, which is a really cool dynamic, because I've looked up to this guy. He's my first mentor forever, and now I'm doing things that he hasn't done, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it's really nostalgic like that. Really proud to have the family I have, and they're proud of me, so it's great.
No, that's definitely dope. And, would you ever put yourself in a space to like teach?
Yeah, I love it. I love coaching and teaching, pouring into people. It's so much fun. It's just not worth the time. In terms of like, it's a devaluing of my hourly rate. I guess it doesn't have to be if I charge enough, but
True.
No, I'll take a coaching client here and there. It's got to really be the right fit. They got to really want it. And I have one right now, and she told me after the first 2 sessions that she got more out of working with me for an hour than she did for a year with her previous business coach. So that kind of stuff is just super rewarding for the soul, to have an impact on people, however it's done. But yeah, maybe I'll come back to the coaching, teaching at some point later in life, but it can't be a main thing right now.
No, wow. That's super amazing. And so, what would you say is your main goal? Because you're on a podcast tour right now.
Yep.
What is the main goal of you going on like a podcast tour?
Yeah, it's spreading awareness around Safe Space Global. That's the number one thing. The stock ticker is SSGC. The whole mission of the company is to save lives, whether it's senior care facilities, schools, transportation authorities, prisons. This technology saves lives. So
exactly how does it do that?
Yeah, so take a school, for instance. It uses cameras, so it's ambient multimodal AI is what it is. So let's say there's someone who's approaching a school that is a registered sex offender that wants to kidnap a child. Well, the camera will cross-reference that database, flag that person approaching, send a text message and a video to the school resource officer with a whole report of who needs to go get apprehended before something like that can take place, right? Or maybe it's someone in a parking lot that is coming up to the school with an AR-15. It'll see that, send the notifications, lock the school down before a shooting can take place.
So in the situation, for both of these kind of situations, how does it operate under like covering? So like facial covering, or if they have a backpack with the gun in the bag, like does it see through these things? Like how does that work?
Yeah, that's all technology that's being developed. A lot of it, because when you're publicly traded, you have to be very careful about what you say. If it hasn't been made public yet, it has to stay proprietary information. So things will come out in press releases on this. And we were on Capitol Hill a few weeks ago, our CEO and president meeting with Marsha Blackburn, Dr. Oz, Kash Patel, working on getting the government behind this, because they just passed a $900 million bill to make schools safer, and we have the technology to do it. So it's a really exciting time. I mean, if we could be the company that ended school shootings, I think that's a very worthy cause.
So now once it identifies both of these people, what kind of trigger? Well, obviously the sex offender, people go apprehend them, but a school shooter, how does it stop that?
It locks the school down. So the AI will work with, I think it's called a mag lock. I don't know. I'm not on the tech side of this stuff on how it works, but we do have some of the best developers in the world. We have over 30 developers that are working on this tech constantly, because you go to whether it's a school or a prison, whatever, you go to them and say, okay, here's the tech. And they're like, well, what do you need? And then you can develop and tweak it for each use case. So Anand, our CTO, he's in the top 200 developers in the world.
Wow.
I didn't know that they do this. They rank them. So we've got 2 of the top 200 developers in the world. Wow. And then their whole teams. And Anand's last, so this is what I mean by team. Anand's last business sold for $1.5 billion. And he doesn't need to work, obviously, right? But he wanted to come be the CTO because the mission is so incredible here and what we're working on. So you have people like that. We have a guy in the sales consultant side that sold his company for $400 million. Our CFO has rang the bell on Wall Street 4 times, right? So I mean, the team here is just insane. And then Dustin Hillis, our president, has been the CEO of several 9-figure businesses. So when you look at the team and every person in their seat, Theo Davies left Google. He was the head of Google sales enablement for all of Asia, and he left and sold his Google stock to come invest in this company. And
so you have the Avengers, basically.
Yeah, it's just, it's really a beautiful thing to see all these incredible people come together on a mission to save lives.
Wow. No, that's and then when you hear statistics like this, like it's hard to not see the way that it's going to go, becoming one of the first companies to really lock down a situation that is an issue in our communities nowadays. That's major. And how, with the way that technology is going, would you guys be forced to pivot?
Yeah, I think it'll always be evolving. Like a lot of it, the pivot we're doing right now is the cameras and the chips.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know this, but there's millions of cameras in the United States that have Chinese chips in them that report data back to China and spy on Americans, right?
Really?
Yeah. So we're developing a new certification standard for AI cameras that only use United States made chips, right? So that's part of what we're talking about on Capitol Hill is the security side of how we're going to develop and roll out these systems so that it's not only safe and saving lives, but protects the interests of our country and national security.
No, that's major. I didn't even know that. Okay, and with it being able to identify these classifications of people, on the flip side of that, because we do have, and I want to word this very carefully, we do have people in America who are sensitive to these levels of exposures. And so would that breach anybody's personal space as far as like being identified when they don't want to be identified, or being, this and that, or, they there's people come up with theories of, you want me to look into a camera so you can clone me, or all kind of things like that. Like, how do you navigate making something that is also not rejected by the people it's supposed to be protected?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid concern, but the reality is it's kind of like with data sharing on social media. Everybody just clicks the button. Same thing with like you walk into an airport now, like you walk up to the thing, it knows your face. Like it's already happening. There's no stopping it. So people, if certain people feel weird about it, I mean, if that's the cost of saving lives and doing good, it is what it is. But that was a bigger concern that we thought in terms of like senior care facilities, these being, cameras in people's private spaces. That's a little invasive, but right now, if these senior care facilities are very understaffed, right? Grandma falls and breaks her hip, she could be laying there for 8 hours before someone finds out. But if the AI camera is there doing fall detection, it'll send a text message and a clip to somebody that can come save that person. So the trade-off is
huge,
is amazing. Yeah. And there's ways of doing the AI in those spaces so it's not a video of the person, but it's like a stick figure rendering, right? So it protects, someone's not like actually looking at you in your private space, but it does the job it needs to do.
Yeah, I feel like there's always a major pressure when you're creating something that could potentially be the first of its kind.
Yep.
Because it's almost like, the light bulb or them creating cars or a plane. We've had so many advancements over time from where we first started, and it's hard to see where it will go from where you first created it, because it hasn't been created before.
Yep.
And so how does that kind of pressure play on you?
I find it fun and fascinating. I think it's a lot like, all the fear around everything that's new. It was like Y2K, the internet we were all gonna die in 2000. Yeah. Now AI is gonna kill us. And like all these things that just don't really happen. So I just don't think it's productive to spend time thinking or worrying about things that are unlikely to ever happen. Because if it does happen, if AI does take over and we all die, like I'm gonna die anyway, so I can't. I'm just not gonna worry about it.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, what can we really do about it?
Right. So yeah, I just, it's one of the things I try to mentally stay out of things that are negative that I can't control. Can't control it. No, so why am I going to waste mental energy on it?
That's major. And, to tap in really quick on the social media business that you mentioned, you said you actually created it because you needed cash flow.
Yeah.
And so what made you keep it?
Well, it's a great business. So, and little background on that, Cody Kearns started, I believe, back in like 2014, 15. That was the first marketing business. I actually originally partnered with them for them to build my brand. Right. So I was a client of theirs first before we partnered on all this stuff. And then my first year raising capital, I did a little over 10 million without ever running an ad, did it all through my personal brand. And, we had,
Cody, all organic.
Yeah. Yep. All media, speaking on stages, leveraging relationships, DM outreach is the most beautiful strategy there is. Now I use it for random things. Like my favorite artist, the independent artist, is Ollie Joseph, right? And I just sent him a DM, and now we're hanging out. So it's like,
really?
Yeah. So like that, it's like you got to build a personal brand. Everybody has to do that. It's not just for business. It's the ultimate networking tool for whatever you want to do in your life. And Cody, myself, Sergio, we were very successful doing that. So we were like, why don't we just help other people do it? We know how to do this. We can duplicate it. So and now organically, we started in January of 24. So we're about a year and a half into it, and we hit 7 figures the first year in sales. And these are pretty low ticket. Like we have people on 500 a month, people quarterly at $5,000. So that's a good amount of volume and transactions just for doing DM outreach. And
those kind of numbers. When you hear somebody hit 7 figures, usually they may have like packages anywhere from like 10 to 30.
Yeah.
But 5 and 500 is extremely low ticket.
Yeah. So it's a recurring revenue model though. So every month it kind of baselines. The new sales are coming in. Of course you have some churn. You're going to lose clients. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful cash flow business. Got great margins, and we keep it lean. I mean, we have about 20 editors on staff now. We do a ton of content for clients, but we do the celebrity growth campaigns, influencer campaigns to grow the pages. And then we've got these engagement networks, people are paid to go like, comment, share, all that stuff. So we just blow these brands up and then go to DM outreach strategies to monetize them. And it works for coaches. It works for roofing companies, solar. It works for pretty much everything.
Wow. No, that's major. Okay. Wow. I see why you're holding on to it. It's definitely a component that I feel like a lot of business owners don't take as serious, because everybody's a guru when it comes to social media. You go on the internet and everybody has a different way for you to monetize or make money or do this. And, I'm starting to see them fizzle out a lot more now, but I hated it because I used to do a little bit of coaching myself, and we would sell the 5, 10, even 20K packages and stuff. And I would be competing against these guys that had way more followers than me, that were bought, that were bots, that were all this, whatever. And they were just more flashy than me, but they didn't have the actual like ingredients to make the cake.
Exactly.
And it just killed me inside, because a lot of them, how they even started was PPP loans and that whole facility. But now, we're starting to phase out of it. And so you're seeing them less and less, and you're seeing businesses that are, standing the test of time. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, before you lock into a coach or before you lock into any specific type of business, like, just do some research. And by research, I don't mean just go to Google, like, do some actual research. Like, what does that person have? Like, you can come here physically and touch my building.
Yep.
I'm not going to scam you. I can't pick an entire building up and just, oh yeah, I'm out of here, I'm gone, or something like that. Like, these are people who you find online and they have no trace anywhere physically. Like, they can literally create whoever they want to be online, and that's it. And so, that raises the question for me, in you marketing the services that you do, knowing the success rate that you have, how often do you find yourself, well, I already feel like I know the answer to that because you're a high level individual. You don't really take shit.
Yeah.
But, I feel like a lot of people, even for the threshold of price points that you have, still try to give pushback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now it's just bad energy. Like, you try to negotiate with me, I just don't even answer. I don't need your business. You know what I mean? I only want to work with the people who are in the right mindset. Right? It's kind of like people that like ask their friends for discounts. It's like, shouldn't you want to pay full price?
100%.
You know? Yeah. So that's a mentality that is really difficult when you do need business.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, I definitely would take a ton of shit in the early days because I needed the money. Now it's like, nah, I got to keep the energy here. And if your energy's down here, we're not working together.
No, that's major. So, man, Justin, I learned a lot about you today. I learned a lot about your companies, and I'm excited for you to ring that bell, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an amazing feat. And I've done 200, a little over 200, right, Sims? Maybe a little over 200 in-person interviews now. And every time I have a conversation with somebody, there's always something new to learn and always a new perspective, which is why I even like podcasting for myself, because you're always across from high level individuals, and not all of them are entrepreneurs. And I tell people all the time, like, don't shit on 9-to-5 people, because there's some of them that live way better lives than a lot of entrepreneurs. And what they do makes sense, because everybody nowadays wants to be number one. Mm-hmm. And I like how you brought that up. Like, hey, 3 out of 4 millionaires work for somebody else.
Yep.
And that's a really good statistic, because it makes sense. And so, do you have something that you want to leave the people with?
Yeah. The biggest lessons that I've learned lately through some deep failures is, man, like, get it out of the way. The faster you can do something that scares the shit out of you and fail at it, the faster you will actually get into a cadence where you have no fear at all, and you can actually become the person you want to be. But if you go in slow incremental wins and in a protection mode, a decade will pass you by, and you'll be successful, but you won't be a fraction of the human you could be if you would just go harder, faster, and not worry about the logistics and let things break. Let systems break, like, blow it out, lose money, make mistakes. People try to protect the most when they have the least.
Yeah.
And it's backwards. You need to go all in continuously. You only need to be right one time and then go into a protection mode.
Yeah.
But until then, it's just, get over yourself, get on social media. One of the things I've learned is, like, if you won't do this stuff, it's an ego thing too, right? Like, no one really cares about us as much as we think we do.
100%.
And I would just say life's not that serious in terms of the way that our amygdala and our prefrontal cortex, like the relationship of fear, how your brain works, it wants to protect you from the life that you could have. So go for it.
Listen, it's nothing more attractive to a mindset than actually being educated, understanding how to grow financially, and being able to execute on it with the proper tools, information, resources, and systems. I want to give you guys a free training on credit to cash. Listen, go to credittocashlive.com, credittocashlive.com. I'm going to give you a training on how to clean your credit, how to repair your credit, how to build your credit, how to fund your credit, and actually generate cash flow from having good credit. It's not just about having a good credit score. It's about actually learning how to monetize it, make money from it, and walk away from your 9-to-5 and create financial freedom. Listen, Credit to Cash Live, I'm giving it to you guys free right here on the Attractive Mindset Podcast. Let's go.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to engage that neuroplasticity, learn new things, discover new ways of life, because there's a lot of paths of life, and it's just not just business. But if you do choose business, you have to be all in. And I tell people that all the time, like, you have to be obsessed. There is no, I'll do it sometimes, or I'll figure it out. Just like you said, like, I don't really have room for that. And every time I've gotten into a relationship with a female, the partner that I'm with right now, I tell her right up front, I'm like, hey, right now, my business comes first. It's not to say I don't love you. It's not to say, it's not going to work or anything, but this is going to have most of my focus. And if you can't handle that, we can't be together.
Right. Because it's for you.
100%. But nah, man, Justin, thanks for coming on to the show. If people wanted to interact with you, maybe even use some of your social media services, learn more about you, learn more about SSG, where could they do all of that at?
Yeah, so we're on all the social medias. My personal page is at Justin Freistadt. Crazy last name. It's Freishtat. There's only one of me in the world, so I'm easy to find.
Oh, absolutely, man. And you already know it's your host, Moneybag Rich. And at the end of the day, we always say, we look good, we live good, life is good. Talk to us, we talk back, and we are out.